Greetings, brethren. This is Bwenje Bright Muramura coming to you live from All Saints Chapel, Weza. And we are in our Kingdom Investment Month, as you already know. Today we have the one and only Mr. Collin Babirukamu, and he will be talking to us about how you can have a work-life balance. And you're welcome, Mr. Collin.
Thank you. Thank you,
I would like to, for those of you who don't know Collin, I would like to take you through his profile. And what I say, what is most important here is that he's a married man to one Dr. Estella Viravwa. He's a father of 4 children. He's a director of e-government services at the National Information Technology Authority, that is NITA. He's a council member at the All Saints Chapel, Weza. He's a chair of the building committee at All Saints. He's a board member at Finca Uganda, a board member at Church of Uganda Family TV, a board member at AEE Holdings, a board member at Word of Life Uganda, a chair of the Babirukamu Foundation. It's an interesting one. A worship leader, a sportsman, a preacher, and all these many things. You're welcome once again, Mr. Collin.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Bright.
Yeah.
And I'm really glad to be here. And thank you, our viewers, and for sitting through and listening, and also for just inviting me to this wonderful series this month. So thank you.
Yeah, with all these hats, you know, we know you in church as someone who can preach, someone who can lead worship, someone who can intercess. But even the government knows you for, you know, what you do for them, and many other places where you're a board member.
Yeah.
So with all these mandates, with all these, and your father as well, your husband, you know, so with all these mandates, you even talked about being a sportsman and a public speaker. I think we shall get into that a little bit. People want to know what kind of sportsman is Collin Babirukamu. But anyway, with all these mandates that you juggle, how do you truly find this work-life balance? How do you manage to do that?
Yeah, thank you, Bright, once again, and thank you, viewers. I think the work-life balance is, or finding a work-life balance is a question that I think I've been trying to answer for a long, long time. And sometimes I have found myself in my passion areas doing the things that I do at work, in church, in my social life, and doing them, you know, with fair ease. We all have 24 hours, but you find that you can actually get those things done in that time. I am a very energetic person, I must admit. And
no doubt about that.
I am energetic, and I love to get things moving. I love to be a part of things that are succeeding and moving. I love to see buildings coming from nothing to go up, and I've been part of building of the All Saints Cathedral, and now Weza Chapel. And so I find that I am driven, and I believe it's by the grace of God. I don't think there's a complete solution to finding this work-life balance. I don't think getting that equilibrium between work and your personal life is completely achievable. For me, it sounds like a work in progress every day. Every day I'm trying to prioritize and say, what can I say yes to? What can I say no to? What are my priorities? What are my callings? What is my purpose? Where must I put my focus? So every single day seems to be a day where I'm trying to reorganize myself to find the balance. It is true, Bright, that even though I'm doing all those things, sometimes I find that while you're doing well at one thing might suffer. One thing might suffer. And there are days I was working in Nairobi, and I was really excelling at my job, where I had 5 countries to look after, you know, in the East African region.
That's interesting.
And, you know, there's travel that is happening. But on the other hand, family is suffering. And I think my children made it very clear to me, Daddy, well, whenever you come back home, you're trying to bring us chocolates, you're trying to bring us presents, but we want your presence.
Your presence.
Not the presents.
Yeah.
And I think it's very important, therefore, that you try to juggle these different things. People say, but I'm busy, I'm so busy. But I tell them, you can actually come from work, know when it's time to get done with work, and head to church, get the things of our spirit also done, and also head to make sure you have time for your friends, and you'll be amazed. I think I'm still trying to find the complete balance, but I actually make time for all these aspects of my life. In hindsight, I wish I was on less boards, of course, than I have. I mean, being on 5 boards is a lot, and every professional will tell you that that's a lot if you have work, 8 to 5 work. So I have to find that optimization and efficiency often to make sure I divide my time well and still be able to achieve these things. Yeah.
I think the problem that you have of being on 5 boards is a good problem, because that means that people see that you are a very productive person and very efficient at what you're doing, which is what most people would aspire to be. But it seems like with the 24 hours that you have just said, it seems like someone can, there's a way you cannot squeeze in more.
Yeah.
So that brings into the question, how can one be more effective in this very demanding world? Yet we only have 24 hours. We only have 24 hours, but you have to squeeze in all these things.
Yeah. How can you be more effective? I think let me use an analogy that I listened to many years ago, almost 15 years ago. It was by a former CEO of Coca-Cola, and this is what he said in his speech. He says that life is like a game of juggling 5 balls. And these 5 balls are: number 1, your work; number 2, your health; number 3, your spirit; number 4, spirit is your faith; number 4 is your friends; and number 5 is your family. So you have these five things that you want to juggle. Let me repeat those for our viewers. The number 1 ball that you must juggle in life is your work. Right? There's work. It doesn't mean it's most important, but it's just the first ball we're mentioning right now. The second one is your health, extremely important. The third ball is your spirit, which is like, your faith. The fourth ball is your friends. And the fifth ball is your family. So keeping all those balls juggled and in the air is extremely important. Because at any one time you must make all these things, all these balls happen. Because it's like a game that you must keep them in the air. But he mentioned that of all those balls, the work ball that we mentioned first is a rubber ball.
It's a rubber ball.
If you dropped it by mistake in this juggling, like the way acrobats juggle, if you dropped it by mistake, it has the ability to bounce back. But the other 4 balls are glass balls. If they dropped, they are fragile and may not bounce back. So you must be able to manage your life. So all those balls must be kept juggled. But I think the tips I could give people to be effective, and anybody who is trying to juggle all these balls, number 1, I think, is you must know and you must discover your gifts. You must discover your calling and your purpose. Because every time you understand your purpose and what you're being called by God to do, even being in the workplace is a calling.
Yeah.
You've been called to a workplace because it's ministry. And you have also been called to do what you're supposed to do in church and ministry. So if you know your calling and your purpose, it's easier to focus. That way, whatever comes your way, you kind of know what is important. You prioritize better. So I think for me, discovering my calling as a worshiper, as a giver, because I give. I mean, that's an area that I believe the Lord has used me and called me to do, use my resources to give. I am also a leader in church, but I'm also a professional on boards and in the government. So whenever you know your strength and your calling, it's easier to manage your time, because everything else becomes, something that you can actually push aside. Because the idea here is focus. You must learn to focus. You have only 24 hours. How do you arrange your time? Basically, know your purpose and your calling. Number 2, I think your time is extremely precious. And I think I have learned along the way that my time is precious. And I'm glad, the moment you said you're coming, you came right on time. And I have a lot of respect for that kind of thing. When someone says, come at 2 p.m., I want to be there at 2 p.m. If they say it's from 2 p.m. to 3 p.m., by 3 p.m., I'm getting ready to go, because there's something else that needs to happen with my time.
Exactly.
So I have found that time is precious. Time cannot be regained or replaced. It's not a replaceable sort of resource. You can only try to make up, but you cannot replace time. So my time is extremely precious. Number 3, I think that I've learned to say is say no. Right, the power of saying no.
That one is a hard one.
Yes.
I'm very sure very many people struggle with saying no.
You must learn to say no. Because I've discovered that every time I just say yes without thinking through it, is it part of my calling? Is it part of my focus? Is it important? Is it priority? Is it among those 5 critical balls that I am juggling right now? You know, if it is not, and it's not part of my critical path, I will say no.
Okay.
And so I've learned to say no. I've learned to say no. For instance, I can no longer be a best man anymore nowadays. I was a serial best man. Every year I was a best man.
For hire.
But best man, exactly. But best man is not just about taking photos. You must be in someone's marriage. You must be in someone's family, process. Someone's life. You must walk with them. So now I said, I've taken a little break on that because the people that I have to work with now are just enough. So you learn to say no. I say no sometimes. I have said no to being a good father anymore because at some point I even forgot the names of the children. This is almost embarrassing. But that's the inability to say no. So learn to say no. Not everything must happen today. No, it's not. You're not Superman. You're not God. You can't play God all the time. So I've learned to say no. My last tip, I think, is partnerships. I think the fact that I have a wife has really made my life really, really easy. Whenever there's a power of numbers, whenever you think you can do one thing alone, but whenever you come together as 2 people, you can actually do greater things.
Exactly.
So now I can manage my friendships better because with my wife we manage these things together, manage my work and my finances together. So there's an ability to partner and actually do greater things. So those are my 4 quick
tips.
Thoughts.
Yeah, I like where you said that first of all you should learn to say no, but most importantly, whatever you're doing should be aligned with your purpose. If you find that it's not aligned with your purpose, then it's only going to take away from your time.
Yeah.
So I hope you're learning. I hope you're learning out there. So that brings me to our 3rd question. While you were preaching, you recently spoke about serving God with your 3 T's.
Yeah.
Could you briefly tell us about what these are, and are they related to finding a balance as a church minister?
Yeah. Yes. I recently spoke about the 3 T's, which I believe are pertinent for anybody who is not just working, but anybody who is in ministry and serving in the church. There are 3 critical T's that I will talk about. The first T is time. I think it's extremely important that we give our time to God. I think every time we talk about we talk about our tithe, we think about money.
Yeah.
We think about, and that's the 3rd T, which is treasures, right? We think about money. But it is not just about money. You can actually tithe your time. You can actually be able to give enough time to the things of God, and that requires a balance. You must know when it's time to make money, which is work and occupation and career, but you also must know how to make time for the things of God, because God is the source of all things. And I think sometimes we forget that God is actually the one who gave you the job. Sometimes we say we're extremely busy doing things that God gave us, that we have no time for God. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
So I think giving God your time or serving God with your time is extremely important, and that's the first T. Just being there, be an usher. You may be a minister, you may be a director, you may be a commissioner, you may be a very powerful CEO, but if God has called you to the choir, on Sunday, on Saturday, make time, go and serve God with your time, and that's the 2nd T now, your talent. So, time, number 1, make time for the things of God. But number 2 is your talents. All of us, I can tell you, are bright, and everybody who's listening to me and watching has a talent. Everybody has a gift. Everybody has been blessed in one way or another. Some people are public speakers and they can articulate themselves. Some others are preachers. Some others are teachers. Others have gifts of healing. Others have gifts of encouragement. Others are gifted with resources and money to give. So you must find your talent. What is it that God has given to you as a talent? And I can tell you, everybody has a talent. When you find it, God is saying, bring it to me. And that's the problem with the talents. Don't just hide it under the sand and come to church every Sunday. There are people who just come to church to sit. At time of the sermon, they are looking at their watches. They're impatient. They're wondering, the choir didn't sing well.
Timekeepers.
The audience didn't smile today. They are critical about everything, but they are not participating. Bringing your talents and serving God your talents means step forward. Give your time,
Offering
number one,
yourself.
but bring your talent. But number three is your treasures, which is your money. I think serving God with your treasures is extremely important. It's important that everybody who has been given, or you are just a steward of those resources. So don't forget who the true source is. So when God says, give me 10%, and you begin arguing with him, what if he asked you for 90%? Because he's the source, remember.
He's the source.
He is the true source. So bring your treasures to serve God. Some people serve him with one of those T's. Others serve him with two of those T's. But if you can serve him with all the three, your time, your talents, and your treasures, I think you have the perfect packaging to serving God.
Serving God.
Yeah.
I can't say it any better than that.
Yeah.
The three T's: time, treasures, and talents.
And talents.
And talents.
Extremely important.
So, I told you we'd get back to this.
Yeah.
You said you're a sportsman.
Yeah.
And I'm sure many people don't understand what that means.
Yeah.
Is that one way that you unwind after all these things? After all this work and ministry, is that one way that you unwind?
Yeah.
Is that one way that you do your leisure?
Yeah, it's actually a leisure thing for me, but also part of my health. So I combine. Remember the balls that we're juggling? Yeah. There's a health ball in there. So for me now at my age, health is extremely critical. When we were younger, we had good health.
Almost 70 or 80.
I mean, let me give you the three brackets quickly. There are three brackets, and I'll go back to the sports thing. But there are three brackets. When you're below 30, they say you have time, a lot of time, and you also have good health. Yeah. All right, but you don't have much wealth in terms of money. Those three areas. When you're above 30 to 60, which I now fall into, I'm 45 this year. Many times they say for our bracket, you don't have as much time anymore, and your health is not as good anymore. And you will believe me, but around middle age, your health begins to have a few challenges. But also, you might have a bit of wealth in this season of your life. So you can see how life is flipping. After 60, you now have time again. Remember the work-life balance we talked about? You now have time again after 60.
Funny enough.
But your health is failing. And most likely your wealth is also dwindling. So you can see how life keeps changing. So at any one time, you must be very alert about those critical areas. So the critical area of health, and I was talking about health right now, at 45, I have to be keen on my health. So one of the things I do with my leisure time is I love swimming. Okay. I love riding a bicycle. This morning, I made 4.7 kilometers before service. So before church, when you saw me at church this morning, I had done 4.7 kilometers, almost 5 kilometers. And that's just a short ride, but with hills and cardio hills. I also do, jogging and running, and of course, gymming. When I was in school, I used to competitively play basketball and table tennis for my secondary school, entire school, as well as my university. So I used to be competitive, but now I'm not competitive. As you can imagine, at 45, the truth is you are not as agile as you used to be. Yeah. But I use them for leisure. So yes, I'm still a sportsman in my own right. So
you have had it all for sure. I mean, amidst all these responsibilities, he still has time to find some time for leisure and sports and all these things, which also serve as a way of keeping him healthy.
Exactly.
So parishioners out there, the work-life balance, as he has put it, it is something that you have to deliberately juggle. It's a constant juggle. Actually,
I need to give a testimony before we close, if that's okay with you.
That's okay.
There's a testimony that just before we close on this, it had slipped my mind, but when a couple of years ago, when I worked for NSSF, and it just reminds me about why that rubber ball, we must remember the rubber ball called work. If it drops, it can actually bounce back. But other things are fragile and they can break. And I've learned that as a principle in my life. And that's why I have to make time for every other personal thing in my life. When I left NSSF, I was a director. at NSSF, and it's a large financial institution. It was a big office. I had a big four-wheel drive. I didn't know the price of fuel because you know how government officials are sometimes. You know, it was great. You're flying business class and everything. You're invited to parties, and you know, you are respected in different places. I left that job because I was going to Nairobi for another job, which would take me away for some time. The moment I left that NSSF job, and that's why it's important for any young person who's listening to this testimony, or anybody else who's trying to figure out about life. When I left that job, you can't believe it. I left that job and immediately my phone calls reduced. People stopped calling because I was no longer the NSSF director. You know, I had less invitations coming to me now because who wants to hire you? You're no longer in that place that they wanted to hire you, right? Some people would even call and they don't even pick my phone calls. You know, after that time, you know, you email people and not even email you back. You go to the offices and they ask you to wait because you're no longer in the job that was supposed to be everything for you, basically. And I think it taught me one big lesson, Bright, that actually work is something that can, you know, can shift and move. And I should never take my full focus. The things that matter most till today for me, and I'll always remember, is my family, is my health, is my spiritual life, are my friends. Those other glass balls are extremely, extremely important, and I must juggle them. So, of course, when I left that job, it seems like for some people, I was no longer, you know, very important. And it dawned on me therefore, that work can come and go. Now I'm a director again, and suddenly the phone calls are back. You know, the invitations are back. People pull chairs for you. They call you and invite you. But I'm wiser now and I'm older now, and wiser to know that the other four glass balls are important. So you must keep juggling those balls. Thank you.
Wow, thank you so much, Mr. Collin Babirukamu. I will not add anything other than what you said, but please, if you're watching this video, take time to write notes, take time to meditate and internalize this message, because it could save your marriage, it could save your work, it could save your health, it could save you from a number of different things. So, like he said, I'll just sum it up. The most important things in life are those glass balls, if you have been paying attention. The glass balls, once they fall, you may not recover them. So take time to attend to them so that, you know, you don't have to find yourself in a mess later in life. Yeah, thank you so much, Mr. Collin Babirukamu. Thank you so much, the viewers. It's been the Kingdom Investment Month, and we've had Collin talk about the work-life balance. I hope you're blessed. See you in the next video. Thank you.
Thank you.